our webinar this morning. For those of you who don't know me, my name's Leonard, and I am a consultant here with Nimbus Software. I've had the pleasure of talking about the Nimbus product now for 20 plus years in my various capacities over the years. And it's great to be able to promote our product this morning. Today we're going to be looking at Core Nimbus. The challenge for me is to keep to time, because I'm used to talking with some of you, you'll know, in depth about our product. So we're going to keep this a very high level, talking about some of the core functionality within Nimbus. With me today, I have Michelle Van Dyke, my colleague, who is part of our sales and marketing team. And she will be on hand at the end of the session to handle any questions if we have time. I'd like to encourage you, if you have questions, to put them into the chat section of this meeting, and we'll endeavour to cover off as many as we can at the end. And if we can't get to your question today, we'll definitely be in touch with you to discuss in detail. Our objectives today is to talk about some of the core functionalities that you use daily and why going back to basics is a key to working smarter. And then, as I said, we'll look at some questions and answers. What we'd like to help you to do is streamline your workflow by capturing your data correctly, and using our product correctly enables that and enhances that. We want to boost efficiency so that we have things done correctly when they're first put into the system, which saves you the time of having to go back and fix things later on. And this saves frustration amongst your staff. We want to have accurate data, because the more accurate the data, the better our reporting and analysis will be for you. The topics that we're going to cover to meet that those objectives are the basic navigation, creating and logging of jobs, quoting, job costing, job analysis, and all through this I will be mentioning the workflow benefits. So we're going to start with a Nimbus database, and this should look familiar to you. When we're talking about navigation, one of the core things is the menu structure. This is the place where people come to access the parts of the system they need. Now, you will be familiar with the left-hand menu that I have here. This menu has headers and it has menu items which you click, which take you into the parts of the system you need to use. This menu structure is particularly good for people who need to access a lot of things in the database. Your high-end users who need accessibility to everything. However, it becomes a bit unwieldy for people who only need a few things. And this is where we use our user group security to only have certain headers and menu items available. What a lot of users don't know is that the left-hand menu does not necessarily have to be the way they use the database, and it's very simple for each individual user to change the look and feel to a different menu type. And this is by going up to the Powered by Nimbus logo on the left, clicking on the cogs, which will open up a small form, and unticking the left-hand menu. Having done that now, the two options that we have are the ribbon menu across the top, and you'll see as I hover over these various icons, pages come up with the menu items that are available. These pages also can have multiple tabs, depending on the amount of items a specific user group has access to. Now, once somebody comes in here and say perhaps opens a report in Nimbus, the benefits of not having the left-hand menu taking up so much screen space can be quite helpful, particularly for those of you who have really complex reports with many columns going out to the right, or if you're on a tablet screen viewing a web report, not having the menu item, menu structure down the left really helps. So as well as the ribbon menu, the other method, it can be accessed from the most right-hand side, and this is the tablet view. Now this is even simpler again, with simple tablets that can be clicked and items accessed from there. This is particularly good for mobile users who are out on a device with a smaller screen. Now, at any time, a user can go back to the left-hand menu just by simply reopening the form and ticking the left-hand menu back on. So this might be really useful for some of your users to consider. Our navigation happens the moment we move off the menu into a selected item. If we move on to a report, for instance, we know that these reports have links. The columns that have links are coloured, and as you hover on the item, it will tell you where it's going to take you. Now, many of these reports come out of the box, but they are highly configurable. We can add links. What I really encourage is that users have a very smooth workflow where they do not have to duck out to the menu, whatever menu structure they're using, that they have to go there as little as possible, that once they're in, they just smoothly keep working through the steps of workflow that they need to take. And consultants are more than able to help with slight tweaks that you might need on your system to enhance this for your specific users. And of course, once you're on a form, often there will be buttons that you can access to take you again to other apps, reports around the system. So all of this is highly configurable. And this is the type of work we do all the time to just smooth out that workflow process for people, make their jobs as quick and efficient as possible. Okay, we're going to talk about logging jobs. And I am going to find a job. Keep this very simple. This is a form that you will have a version of, and it will look very familiar to you. This is another area where we do a lot of configuration work. You may have your own specialized custom fields on this form. First thing I want to talk about are the compulsory fields, which are highlighted in the purpley color. Now, it is important that any critical information that you require your staff to enter when they first log a job, those fields should be compulsory on your form. For example, if job zone or site address are crucial pieces of information that should always be entered when the job is created, then please ensure that those fields are compulsory on your form. This saves a lot of frustration, a lot of double handling if people have to go back and find that information further down the workflow track. I'm only going to talk about the key compulsory fields. The description. I really encourage people to put meaningful descriptions on their jobs. If, for example, you're a plumbing company and you have literally hundreds of jobs where a description is just plumbing works, then finding that job, historically, if you need to come back and find that job at some point, it makes it very difficult. So I always encourage people to put meaningful descriptions on their jobs. Job status. This is the mechanism that pushes your job through workflow. It determines where a job or which jobs may appear on certain reports around your system. It will determine whether you can do posting or invoicing on a job. Job status is the key, and that they really, we need to be updating job status on a regular basis. Every time a person finishes with their job, they've done their bit, they should be moving the job to the next part of the workflow by applying the correct job status. For example, the quoted jobs will be at a queue status. They come in at quote request, which means it's currently being worked on. When the quote is sent to the customer, moves to QS. When the customer accepts the quote or the contract, QA. Any J status means the job's ready to be worked on, it's current, and you're able to post costs, create purchase orders, etc. So it is important that the status on a job be relevant, that at any time if someone's looking at a job in the system, they know where it is in your workflow by its job status. Now, once again, you can have custom job status added to your system that matches your workflow. Supervisor is important, as this is the person who's responsible for the job, and this actually can also create different work job lists for people around the company based on who's the supervisor. You can do the same thing with current owner, salesperson, estimator, whatever fields you have. But these are important fields. Invoice view, queue, very important, tells the system how the job's to be invoiced. A jobbing job will use the cost transactions to produce an invoice. A quoting job or a contract job will invoice out on the basis of the agreed price on that job. Very important to get this right. If it's wrong, it can be changed. However, profit center, which is very important, if this is put wrong on a job, this is very difficult to change. The profit center controls where the financial transactions associated with this job end up in your general ledger and all of your financial reporting. Now, once a job has been created and it's had even one job cost transaction put against it, the profit center is locked and it cannot be changed at your end. This would be where you would have to come to a Nimbus consultant like myself, and I would have to do it for you. And I have to tell you, this is actually quite a complex thing to do, because not only would I have to change the profit center on the job, but I would have to move any associated financial transactions to the correct division. So this is very, very critical and very important that when jobs are set up, they're set up correctly. If mistakes around this area are being made in your company, we can help. We can help with some security things on your particular users, which may restrict the profit centers they're able to choose. Come to us, ask us for help. These are small configuration changes that we can make on your system, which can make a huge difference. As long as somebody has filled in all of the compulsory fields on the job form, then clicking apply will save the job into the system. So this is a really important feature. Okay, we're going to move on and have a talk about quoting. This is a real passion of mine. I've done a lot of work with customers around quoting over the years. This is an example of sectional quoting or schedule quoting, where we have a quote template with multiple schedules on it. Now, on some cases, we'll have these schedules pre-named, pre-labeled. Everything we do around quote development is to enable quick and efficient quoting. And so there's a lot that we can do to speed up the process if we understand how your estimators work. So some of our customers, as I said, will have these schedule boxes already pre-labeled. And in some cases, we even have customers who have the individual items, like a checklist of things, in each schedule already pre-labeled. Once again, really saving time. The other thing about the pre-filled schedules is that because it's a checklist, it does make a person think, do I need this? Do I need that? So it does eliminate the chance that someone may forget an important item on a quote. If we have the pre-filled schedules, then they will be set with a quantity of 0, and then it will just be a matter of somebody working their way down the quantity column and confirming how many they will need for each part of this quote. So the idea with these scheduled quote is that we think about the logical steps that it would take you, should you win this work, what would be the logical steps that your workflow that you would have to follow to produce this item for your customer. And that's the thinking that we do. Now, all of the quote templates, they have the same basic way of working, although quoting is so particular to your business. We can add extra calculation columns. We can make it very specific to the industry that you work in. The basic premise is that you choose the item that you need, you set the quantity, the item will bring through a predetermined cost if it's on your price file, and often a predetermined sell price, or it will have a predetermined markup cost plus a certain percentage, however you like to work. We can have your template pre-programmed to work that way. But having said that, we also have overrides for people who are creating a quote where the system can say, this is how we expect you to cost and sell this item. And then there will be the ability to override to actually, come up with the cost and sell for each item that you want to present to your customer. Each box has a subtotal, and each subtotal will then help compile the total at the top of the quote. And this is the price that's going to be presented to your customer. Now, I am a total advocate for our quoting and really encourage it for our customers to use our quoting system. I'm always interested if I hear that estimators are working outside of our system and just bringing one-line quotes in to Nimbus. I ask, can I see what you're doing outside? Can I see your Excel spreadsheets? Because we can replicate whatever's happening outside of Nimbus in here. Now, the reason that we really encourage that is that if you have all of your calculation data within Nimbus, then the analysis that you can do on a job during its progress or after the event is huge, because you have direct comparison between what was required at quoting and what actually happened in the delivery of that job. And if there have been overruns, you can see exactly where those overruns were. If you only have a one-line quote in Nimbus, you may know that you've gone over, but to do that analysis to see exactly what went wrong on this job, it will take a lot of work if you don't have the data all under the Nimbus hood. So I do a lot of preaching about quoting. The other thing with these quotes, many times we have another system operating as you're doing it. And this is the WBS code column, which is pre-tagging all of the quote transactions for if you win this piece of work, you have a signed contract, and then you want to turn this into a project with an umbrella project at the top and sub jobs below for each of these sections. And if you've used this type of template and you've labeled everything correctly, it literally is the click of a button to do that. And our system will take all of this information, it will spread the quote transactions across all the resulting project jobs, and then you get to utilize our analysis as the project continues and once it's completed. So If you have any questions on quoting, if you have any reasons why quoting is a stumbling block on your system, please come and ask somebody, ask a consultant. You know, I am happy to talk about this with people, as are my colleagues. And this is an area where we can really, really enhance the use of your system. I see quoting as a real foundational core block. And if you get that right in our system, then it's like a domino effect in the efficiencies and the benefits that you get throughout the system. Okay, I'm going to talk very briefly about job costing and just show you a couple of things. So job costing traditionally started with our job posting grids, and this is our new job posting grid. If there are any of you on an older version of Nimbus, you may still be using the old VB app. And we've now moved to this grid form, and it has different technology running underneath it, but it does work, look, and feel very like the old tool. But there is one really distinct advantage, and that is that when you are posting to a job, okay, so I'm just putting some time on this job. When you click, immediately the system verifies the data. Now, if I had made a mistake here, if I'd used a closed job or an employee who was discontinued or a code that you no longer want people to post with, I would have got an error right there and then, and the system would have forced me to fix the row before I could continue. With our legacy VB app posting grid, you could enter 20 or 30 lines, get to the end, click OK, and the system would then tell you that there was a problem. And you would have to find your way back through all the data to figure out where the problem was and what to fix. So our new posting grids, it's not just for job posting, they're all around our updated versions of Nimbus. They are really good, and there is a real advantage to getting an upgrade if you're due to have one and to use these. So traditionally, our job posting grids were used for time. We've moved on. A lot of our customers now have mobile apps, people out in the field where timesheets are coming in and electronically uploading into Nimbus and being posted to jobs. And so we've got a lot more variety and can help you with your posting of time. We also have our scheduler app, so that's something to talk about with us if you are still manual handling all of your data from timesheets. So yes, contact us, talk to us about it. So the job posting tool can also be used for posting stock. So items that you hold in a warehouse and are used on a job, you can post these from stock. So that is still available. Of course, material items also come on to jobs via purchase orders, and that will be something that you are familiar with. And many of you, well, all of you, I guess, will be familiar with the purchase order grid that people use. And it's a manual grid that is opened, and then the data to be sent to your supplier has to be entered in line by line. And, you know, for charge up jobs or small jobs, this is actually good. It does actually become a little difficult if you're working on a very large quoted job, in that if we're going to be ordering goods, we need to be sure that what we're ordering was actually the item that was quoted on. And if it's not, well, we need to understand why. I would imagine if someone was using an empty grid like this and starting from scratch, that you must have to have some sort of printout or something from the quoter to be able to use this. So I do see this as good. It has its place, but of course we've moved on and we have a new tool called quote ordering that will really speed up your procurement, especially on your large jobs, your large quoted jobs. Now, just before we leave this manual screen, only one thing I want to emphasize. With the use of the N code, your miscellaneous code, your non-stock item, please encourage your staff to always put a cost in. One of the problems I see as a consultant is when people just have a zero cost. Now, the way I think it is, if you're buying a widget and it's something you use, you must have some sort of ballpark figure. You must know. This thing costs about $500. We're not asking for it to be accurate at the order stage, but at least an indication. If you put a zero in there, when someone's analysing their job and they see, oh, I've got 5 purchase orders out there, but they're at a zero value, it doesn't give a job manager any idea. In fact, it could be a misleading idea of what the expected costs on a job are. So that is a discipline that I really encourage you enforce with your customers, your staff. I work with customers. I can help with that. Any consultant can help with that. If you want us to put some little rules in here that won't allow them to have zero value purchase orders, we can put that in. So just come to us, get us to help you. Okay, close that down, and I'm going to quickly show you quote ordering. I'm going to keep this very simple and go to a and we're just going to stick with one job for now because it just makes us a little easier to see the data. So we have a project 1087, and on that project I have job 1087-3, which was for the flooring. Now, you can look at a whole project. The only reason I've limited it to one job, it's just because the data is easier for you to see if you don't have quite so much on the screen in front of you. Now, on this report, we actually use this report to do our quoting. Now, this is where the real advantages of a detailed broken down quote will help you with your purchasing, because I can see immediately all of the items that were allowed for this part of the project in quoting. I can see the quoted quantity. I can see the quantity on hand for any of those items, whether they could be just issued out of stock. I can see of the quoted quantity, how many have already been used, how many are already on order, and how many are still required. This is really good information for a job manager to have. So when it comes to actually raising your purchase orders, it's simply a matter of running down the order column quantity and telling the system how many of each particular item you want to order. So for example, this item here, I saw that we needed 20 still. I'm going to take another 10 for this job and put that in there. This item requires 20, the next one down. And I can see we've got supplier Adam as our preferred supplier on this one. Now I found out I can get a better price somewhere else. And so I'm actually going to change my supplier, and I'm actually going to go with the new cost that I've been quoted. And I'm going to order 5. And I can put some notes in here explaining why I made my change. Click OK on that. And then we will take, well, those are the only 2 that we've got items still required for. Now, you can work your way. Obviously, in real life, you'd probably have a much bigger list than this. You keep working your way down, and when you're ready to create your purchase orders, it's the simple click of a button up here. Now, what the system will do is it will collate all of the placemaker items onto one purchase order, all of the blight electrical items onto one order. So this really speeds up the generation of purchase orders, and it really is just the click of a button. Put a delivery date in if we have one. We can put notes onto the purchase order, and we order the items. Once this happens, those items, those purchase orders are now sitting on your current orders list. They behave like any other purchase order in the system from that point on. The only thing that's changed is the way you do it. Okay. Job analysis. This is where we reap the benefits of everything we've been doing. And this is the really exciting part where we start to see the benefit of using the system in the best way possible and applying some disciplines as we go. So we're going to go and look at our project 1087. This is the project manager tool. So a project manager can use this tool to see the progress on his project right from day one, right from the moment costings start coming in. He has a report like this where he can actually see the data. He can compare the budgeted hours on a job with the actual hours. He can spot potential blowouts before they happen, maybe take some remedial action. All of these figures coming in around the costs on the jobs, you can drill down to other reports to see the breakdown. But as well as a report like this, we also have dashboards that we can run. And so if we go to a dashboard for this job, some of you will be familiar with the suite of dashboards now that are available. Some may have never seen these. These are the type of dashboards that we're able to provide you with. In terms of looking at data, there are people who find these easier to read than a report with figures, and the drill down is the same. You can drill down on any areas of this dashboard and you can see the detail. Notice our current job orders. We got 5 orders in here, and because none of them have a 0 expected cost, we have got a reliable data in terms of the value of those goods. We haven't paid for them yet, but we're committed to spending that money. So I don't have a lot of time to sit here, but there you go. That's just an example of one of the dashboards. If you want to know more about these, come and ask us. We can show you the whole suite of what's available. So I've had to rush at the end because I'm looking at the time and I need to stop. But everything I've shown you, this is basic Core Nimbus. I'd love to have spent more time, as per usual. There's a lot more that I could show you, but I'm hoping that there's some little gems or some insights that even the most seasoned users of Nimbus here today can take away from this. And as I said, it costs nothing to ask a question. And so I'm going to stop now and I'm going to hand over to Michelle. She's going to let me know if there were any questions.
Thanks, Karen. At this stage, there's no questions. Let me just double check. We are in the process of setting the date. At this stage, we're looking at the 10th of April, and we've had a few requests around CRM, so the invite will go out shortly, and the topic will be around CRM. All right. I think that's it.
Thank you. Okay.
All right. Thanks,
Bye.
everyone, for joining. Bye.